Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Sunday Afternoon Smokes, your casual conversation podcast from the upstate of South Carolina. My name's Chris. I'm your host. I'm also the owner and operator of the Cigar Box, a mobile cigar bar that serves the upstate and beyond. If you enjoy these conversations, the best way you can support the show is simply to give me a follow. Now, this evening, I have an opportunity to hang out with a couple of guys, Duncan Morrow and Jerry Plumb. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. The way I run Sunday Afternoon Smokes is pretty simple. It's a casual chat, but I like to let my guests just introduce themselves. So both of you take a minute, say as much or as little about yourself as you like, and while you do that, I'm going to light my cigar.
Well, hey, I'm Duncan Morrow. Thanks for having me. Here with my buddy Jerry. We're from Upstate Community Press. We're a local press organization that's offering coverage to small businesses in the area. We just kind of started this recently, so it's nice to get out and talk to some folks about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
my name's Jerry Plumb. I'm the co-founder of Upstate Community Press. And Duncan and I started this company almost a year ago now, but the thought of it has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
We both come from sort of creative consulting backgrounds, so we were able to put these things together. And I think it's probably the day that the company's matured to a point where I think it's, we're ready to talk about it. And
yeah,
it's something that we do full time. Myself, when I was younger, I was sort of a transplant. A lot of the times I was born in Sacramento, California. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona. I lived in Seattle, Washington, all before I was like 10. So I moved to South Carolina, when I was entering my formative teenage years. And I lived in Charleston for about 10 years. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth freelancing and becoming a business consultant, a creative consultant, doing video and photo and design and branding and all the like. I'd say I met Duncan when I moved back from Greenville. One of the first things I did was go to a show, and it was like a couple bands in a studio that was after hours. So it was a really cool private show, and I met Duncan there. His band was playing, and Duncan's an amazing musician, regardless of what he tells you. He's a modest guy, but he's a really good guitarist. So I met him playing, was it 7 Year Witch?
Silver Tongue Devils.
It was Silver Tongue Devils.
I think they might have been playing that show too, though, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, over the years, we kind of dreamed this up. And long story short, I lost my job, kind of. I left my job. And we just went in full bore. We didn't, no funding, nothing. We just kind of made it happen. And
yeah, we'd probably been talking about it for years,
at least 5. Yeah. And so we met our partner, Eddie, and the three of us kind of came together. Eddie King's probably I think more people recognize Eddie King from Upstate Community Press than they would us.
Yeah, 100%.
He's sort of the editor of the press side of that situation.
Mm-hmm.
But, I guess spending 10 years in Charleston and doing all that led naturally to meeting Duncan, and we're kind of a fit that makes this work. And, I play music and I love music too. So watching him play I immediately wanted to hang out with the guy.
Sure. I mean, who would want to hang out with that hair?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not really hanging out with
We
Duncan.
could have a whole podcast.
I'm hanging out with his hair.
Yeah. We could have a whole podcast.
That's a new one. I like that.
That sense of.
So it's like people that they're not hanging out with me, they're hanging out with my beard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's just a certain level of machismo.
You have quite the beard.
I'm
you do.
just passing. I appreciate it.
It's the first thing I noticed.
My wife gets really irritated at how many people, both male and female, stop me in public to say something to me about my beard. And she'll just make this snarky face after they walk away. And she's like, nobody pay attention to the disabled lady, the person who needs it. But I don't know what to tell you, hun. But it's yours. It's your beard. You get to partake in the richness and the fatness of it. It's all for you.
Yeah,
So,
nice.
but what can you
Honey,
do?
if you don't like it, grow one. Very easy. I do it in my sleep.
Let me borrow that lighter from you.
Yeah, man, you guys light up
Yeah,
whenever you're ready. I've already lit mine. I thought I had another. I think there's another lighter on the table somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'm smoking tonight an Hoyo de Monterrey Excalibur Dark Knight. I really like this cigar. And when I asked you gentlemen before the show what you wanted, you both said bold.
Mm-hmm.
I've got you one of my favorite cigars. Have you ever smoked a La Gloria Cubana cigar?
I don't think I have. No.
I think you're gonna like it, man. And if you don't, I don't know what to tell you.
I'm not picky.
Yeah, no, it's
It'll
a
be
good.
great.
And
Oh, yeah.
Jerry, you've got the Undercrown Maduro, Undercrown made by Drew Estate. I mean, these are all some excellent cigars. Now, y'all have been, you've been into the world of cigars a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say for the last 2 or 3 years, like more seriously, but I started smoking as a kid.
Okay, I was going to ask you where your journey into cigars started.
I started traveling really young, playing music, and met all kinds of folks, and picked up cigarettes first, of course, and got a little older. It was like, something a little classier would be nice. And the first time I ever smoked a cigar, I used to go to Garden City Beach to fish off the pier all the time. And I probably wasn't 18 yet, and so you couldn't just go buy a cigar. But an old guy that was out there fishing had one, and he put it out about halfway in one of those little ashtrays on the side of the pier. And I was like, I'm going to go try that. That looks cool. And me being a kid, I didn't know you weren't supposed to inhale them. So I'm sitting there smoking it like a cigarette. And then the next thing you know, I'm throwing up over the side of the pier. And you'd think it would have scared me away from it, but no.
And thus the entry into the world of cigars.
Entry into the world of cigars
was born. But you said the last couple of years, I guess, I don't know, from your childhood up until probably the last 3-ish years has been what, very hit and miss or just casual with the cigars, and now
I go
it's
back and forth. Yeah, I got into pipes, too, when I was younger, and I always liked the pipe. I didn't want to smoke it around folks, though. It just felt like kind of, I don't know, cliche to just go out and about with a pipe, me being a kid. Normally you see like an old guy with a beard and a pipe, like a sailor kind of thing. And so I'd smoke it at the house or, when I was just hanging out. But I got into the little mini cigars, cigarillos.
Oh, cigarillos are great.
Little Olivas, and I started smoking those pretty regularly, trying to kind of get away from cigarettes, to be honest. And I just like a classier experience, It reminds me of like whiskey, which I don't drink anymore, but you get a real similar type experience, different flavors. And,
right.
Just like the ritual to the cigar, to a pipe, It's
a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Cigars really are between the wrapper, the binder, the filler, which country it comes from, where on the plant did they take this tobacco leaf from, because the plant provides a bunch of different stuff between flavor and texture and spice. And so I've said this before many times, like a cigar is the result of a mad scientist in a lab. I mean, he's a chef. He's blending. He's looking for flavors. He's looking for a lot of different things that he wants to create. And you can mix and match to your heart's content when it comes to cigars. I understand what you're saying, getting into cigarettes first, especially in the musician scene. I mean, you've got just some pictures of like Slash from Guns N' Roses.
Right,
he's got his hat down and his cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's doing his thing. Or Eric Clapton.
Right.
I don't really see many guitar players smoking cigars
Right.
while they play. But I don't know. Like, what do you think it is about tobacco and music?
I don't know. I think the nicotine being a stimulant helps, stimulating you into creativity. And when I start getting into like a creative headspace, half the time it's late at night and you need something to do to kind of keep you at bay. And so I'll just sit there and smoke cigarettes and write. And, I've gone back and forth with smoking cigarettes. I've quit for years at a time, but kind of go where I need.
Yeah.
Depending on what I'm trying to accomplish. But speaking of musicians that are smoking, Albert King is one of my favorites. And he used to smoke a pipe on stage. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And that's kind of probably where I got into the pipe thing from. You wouldn't see him really smoking a cigarette or anything, but it was classy. It looked professional,
I have a difficult time. I'm not, obviously, if you want to smoke a pipe on stage, do whatever you want to do. But a pipe is much more work than a cigar.
Oh yeah.
And you know that. I mean, you smoke a pipe too, right? So like a cigar, once you get it going and get it lit, I mean, it's just you just smoke it and it stays lit. A pipe is like, a pipe is like a woman. You've got to pay it attention. You've got to caress it. You've got to like talk to it just right. You know what I mean? Yeah, all that stuff. And so I would find it very difficult to be on stage playing an instrument, singing a song, trying to maintain a pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to show off. Like, that's the whole point, man.
I don't know how he does it. I don't think I've ever performed live and smoked a pipe. I think I did in a video once, maybe. I think me and you were at a music shoot one time where I tried it. But it's hard. You're already doing a whole lot, even if you're just playing the guitar. It's
yeah,
tricky.
well, because a pipe is, I mean, there is a certain cadence or rhythm to cigar smoking. But a pipe is even more intentional. And, when you're trying, and maybe I'm overthinking it, but when you're trying to smoke a pipe and pay attention, if you're following the rhythm of your music and how fast or how slow, and do I need to crescendo? Do I need to back off? Like,
right.
Like, do I need to, are we doing a key change here? Are we jumping into 3/4 time from 4/4? Like,
right.
And then trying to handle the pipe at the same time.
A lot of that stuff kind of just happens naturally.
That's
too,
true. For you guys that are professional musicians.
We've played that song over 1,000 times. We know when the change is coming up. I could do it with my eyes closed and not have to think about it. So
that's true.
And then you smoke a pipe enough, you don't have to think about it either. It kind of becomes habit.
I have a question, and I'm not trying to cut you and leave you out of the conversation here, buddy. We'll get to you. Okay, like, going to concerts is fun.
Mm-hmm.
People love going to concerts. And they love certain songs by certain musicians. You can't wait to hear them. But I've always wondered, as a musician, obviously you like your music. If you didn't like it, you wouldn't play it. But do you ever get sick of playing the same song over and over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the last band that I was with for any length of time, we were together for probably 5-6 years, and we only put out a handful of records. So you go off and tour on that record and you play that song every night for multiple tours. And there were some songs that we just didn't even like, or that I didn't like, but the rest of the band loved, and I just wouldn't say anything. And you play the song.
You play because you have to.
But it's still fun. I mean, you get to be on stage and play. If that's the biggest complaint that I have, like, I don't really like this song. Like,
yeah, sure.
Oh, good. I still get to go up and play.
Yeah. So back to the world of cigars, like you said, in the last couple of years, you've become a little more intentional about it, a little more serious. In what way?
I think trying to narrow down my flavor profile, what I actually like, just experimenting. I'm a creature of habit. I find one thing and I go back to that restaurant. I order that same thing every time, just out of ease a lot, and I kind of have to push myself to experiment with things. And cigars are one of those things that's hard to experiment with because there's so many makers, so many different flavors, so many different types. And now the new makers that are coming out, you can't even keep up with them.
Yeah.
So it's hard to figure out, what do I like? I walk into a humidor and there's like hundreds of choices, and God, I get like decision paralysis, and it's nice when you go somewhere that's a little more quaint and small, that has a smaller humidor and someone there to kind of help you through and, hey, what are you into? Or if you don't know, they can just give you recommendations. I think going out to other cigar lounges and bars and talking to people and having people like help me through figuring out what I like is kind of what got me to that point. And I got into Liga Privada. A friend of mine, oh gosh, I'm forgetting his name off the top of my head now. He does tintype photography. He's a really cool guy. His name will pop up probably as soon as I leave. But he used to get the little number 9, little short bangers, and he gave me a few of those. We were working an event together, and I was helping him out with some of his tintype stuff, and he would just give me those cigars throughout the day, and I just thought they were amazing. So I started smoking Liga and got into the heavier, full-bodied blends, and kind of just took it off from there. And now I'm trying to experiment with more of the lighter flavors and find what I like in that area. But
it's hard. The Connecticut wrap stuff it starts off good, but it can, in my opinion, a lot of times wind up being a little monotonous over time.
Yeah.
It just be a little bland. So, but there are certain Connecticut cigars that I think carry a little more punch than others. I really am a fan of Camacho's Connecticut. It seems to have a little bit of flavor to it because of what they're putting in, probably in the filler and with the binder. But the light stuff, I don't know. I started there, and probably like a lot of people, and wound up just in heavier because the more you do it, you find you want more flavor.
Yeah.
That's my experience anyway. So have you kind of settled on by and large, you settled on the medium full to full, but you're exploring the milder side?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, any Maduro that I get, I'm usually pretty happy with it. I just like, I'm a man of extremes, I think. So the stronger of a cigar I can get, the more I'm probably going to like it. And,
Yeah.
you know, the mediums, I like some of the flavored stuff, like the Fat Bottom Betties.
Yeah.
I think those are really nice. The oaky flavor with the sweet tip. And
Mm-hmm.
I think they have another, I forget the name of it, but it's like pipe tobacco and Cavendish that it's loaded with. And I was smoking those in the morning and drinking espresso with them.
They have,
the best.
so they have Fat Bottom Betty, they have Girl with No Name, they have Crazy Alice, they have Leather Rose, and they have,
I think Crazy Alice is the
Crazy
small one I'm
Alice,
thinking of,
yeah. Yeah, a lot of people like Crazy Alice. So, yeah, man, I'm of the opinion that if you like it, then do it. You know, every now and then I'll smoke a flavor infused one myself. Are you more of a pipe guy?
I think I'm more of a cigar guy.
Okay.
In practice, definitely.
Now we've got a couple of buddies here off camera hanging out with us this evening, and they're piping away,
Yeah.
and that's fine. I mean, I have a couple of pipes and I smoke them, and you smoke a pipe too, right?
Sure.
But you smoke more cigars than pipe.
Oh, definitely. Socially, for sure. You know,
Yeah.
I think you find yourself at the cigar bar or whatever establishment, and it's typically when I'm in I found cigars through business, like having meetings and stuff. And I used to be on a trade show circuit, and every year, a couple times a year, we'd go to Indianapolis, and there's a really cool cigar place there. It's like balconied, 2 stories indoor. I forget the name of the place. I wish I remembered. Indianapolis, Indiana. Really cool spot. You know, and they got guys that'll just take it. What do you like? You know, what are you looking for? And I'm probably an amateur, definitely amongst the three of us. But so I've always had a friend who would just, take me on the journey a little bit, or, make a suggestion. But going to that cigar place in Indianapolis kind of got me into it. And I think if I smoke a pipe, I'm typically alone.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why that is, but I think that it's probably just due to the fact that there's a lot of cigar bars, not
Sure. There's no
necessarily
pipe
bars.
Well, I'm sure you're familiar with Boda Pipes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's
great.
Well, that place was originally just pipes. Hence the
really?
name. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, the original part of Boda Pipes was just pipes. And then, of course, the cigars came along and really rose in popularity, and so they expanded their offering.
Yeah.
And that's why, there's a lot of cigars over there. Do you think this conversation where we are having right now would be the same if we weren't smoking cigars?
No. I think, part of that happened when you invited us, because I read the thing, I read the deal. Oh, what's this kind of, a cigar podcast. Yeah. I think there is a different kind of thing. And that's really the point, right? Like, I kind of lump cigars in with pipe tobacco and with finer tobacco products.
Yeah,
against
absolutely.
Things like cigarette. Like,
absolutely.
I don't find a lot of value in a Marlboro Light. And I used to even go to cigar shops and pipe tobacco stores, like nice ones, to buy cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
So I could get good cigarettes, because I find that the tobacco experience is a different thing.
Mm.
And there's like a social thing. And I think that's what I mean. Like, there's a social ingredient there that,
they're 100%.
the smell of it, everything about the experience is better and different.
I think because, like, we planned this podcast, you submitted your guest preview forms, I built an outline, and so we could be sitting here without these cigars covering the same material, but the cigars, they 100% change the atmosphere.
Yeah.
They change the atmosphere, they change the attitude, they add a level of complexity and camaraderie. It just makes everything better is a poor word. I just don't know what that word is.
Yeah.
I think there's like a bonding experience to having a smoke with somebody, because you're dedicating a fairly long amount of time when you light a cigar, at least an hour or so typically, and you're probably going to be talking to that person the whole time you're smoking that cigar, and it's like, gives you a chance to say, hey, I'm going to sit down for an hour or two with this guy and we're going to talk for a while and
Yeah.
have a cigar while we do it. And it makes it feel a little more in unison, maybe, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I think it's, I mean, you could reference all the cultural things like Godfather or any of the things that kind of paint the picture culturally of what hanging out men with cigars means, you know. I think people enjoy that. You know, we do a lot of user experience stuff. And when I call it that, it's like, you know, a technical way to say, how do people enjoy things and what do they really like about things?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think cigars are something you necessarily enjoy for the sake of the buzz.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, as much as the whole package, like the way it smells, the way you feel, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that comes from watching gangster movies or but I've been lucky enough to have friends that know what they're talking about, you know. It's sort of a crutch. Like I haven't learned a lot about cigars.
Well, you don't have to.
Yeah. I
Look,
think I have already just listening to you guys talk about it. So.
Well, you don't have to learn a lot about cigars. Cigars are not, they're meant to be enjoyed, not examined.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
I like that.
We have come to a place in our culture, and name it, whether it's bourbon, craft coffee, cigars, you know, wine. We want to get so nerdy and know everything about it that you wind up ruining what it's really intended for. And that is for your enjoyment.
Right.
Like if you want to geek out, look, I'm not saying you shouldn't, but if you want to geek out over where this tobacco came from and how it was grown and how it was harvested and how it was cured and what the weather cycle was like that year for planting and how long they fermented it and how long they aged it in bale. And if you want to learn all that stuff, that's fine. But at the end of the day, I want to sit down with a couple of guys that I'm interested in talking to or a really good friend and have a cigar and have a connecting moment with some people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not worry about what's the wrapper, what's the binder, what's the filler, what can I expect to taste in this? Is this going to go right with this beer or no. I just want to enjoy the smoke and the company.
Yeah, it can almost take you out of the experience.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the coolest ways I've ever heard that put. Because I like to nerd out about stuff. Like I was a mixologist for a little while. I was a bartender, but you know, I got really nerded out on just craft cocktail stuff and looked into like where they make this particular liquor and why it has the color it has and why that works in this cocktail. And I got that way about coffee too. And cigars is one of the things where I'm trying hard not to get too nerdy with because of that. And it does feel like you can kind of kill some of the mystique and take away the experience if you're worried about what is this thing and where is it from, and like just sit back and enjoy it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, but that's how I get into something. I like it when it's like there's some expert. I have some Somal friends, and they can walk you through wine and make you'll enjoy the wine like you couldn't alone without their input. So I mean, I see value in that sometimes. I like that.
Well, there is. I'm not saying there's not value in it. I'm just saying don't let it overshadow its main purpose.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, this is a consumable, and if I've dissected it to the point to where I can't enjoy its consumption, I
think most people get to the point, kind of what you were talking about earlier. You want to like, it's attractive smoking cigars, but you don't know like which one do I buy. They're different colors and they smell different. That's about all I know.
Sure.
And you need to grease the wheel a little bit with somebody who can kind of point you into, well, what kind of things you like, you know, make parallels to other things you like and kind of figure out the cigar for you and try that out until, okay, I know if I get Maduro, you know, some people don't like those because they're too much. And learning those little things for me has been, okay, now I can go to a humidor and I can pick out a cigar.
Yeah.
I'll be all right.
Sure.
Because I want to know, I think most people when they start smoking, they want to know, okay, I'm smoking a really nice cigar right now. This is what that tastes like. Or the experience is like. Versus like, you can't really get into it without some kind of lubrication, whether it's like a person or,
Mhm.
you know, that's why that cigar shop in Indianapolis was so great, because you go in there and somebody will take you on a tour and make sure you get, you know, something you like. And then I had a friend go, I'm going to get you a real one. I'm going to get you a real one. And it was like the fourth or fifth cigar I ever had. And it kind of put me on my ass a little bit, you know? So, yeah, I think there's like a barrier to entry to some folks who would be into it, you know, but without that little push, it wouldn't happen. The way
That's why it took me so long to try to get serious about it, because it is intimidating, because there's so much going on. And
that's all it is, right?
it does take somebody to kind of give you some sort of idea of, hey, here's the basics. Like, you know, it makes you more comfortable with, like, okay, I can go in there and figure out what I like, and I don't have to be like, oh God, what am I going to do when I walk in the humidor? You know, there's all these options.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. Well, look, I've enjoyed the cigar chat, but that's, you know, you said earlier that it's like kind of one of the hooks of when I reached out to y'all about coming on the podcast. I'm like, oh, this is a cigar podcast.
Yeah.
I would not describe Sunday Afternoon Smokes as a cigar podcast. Cigars are a feature, but they're not the focus.
Sure.
Even though we spend time talking about it, you know, my focus is really sitting down with people from the upstate that I find are interesting and are doing cool things. So I want to highlight local people. It sounds like that's a common thread between myself and Upstate Community Press.
Yeah.
So when somebody asks about Upstate Community Press and what it is, what do you tell them in plain English?
Man, I think you have the pitch pretty practiced.
Yeah, man, give me your mission statement and your 5-year plan. No, I'm just
Upstate Community Press really just exists to highlight small local businesses that we find interesting, that we believe in. And it's a free thing. You know, we don't think that people should have to be blocked behind a paywall to get some sort of local exposure. And, you know, we started out as consultants, and we've seen the back end of scaling companies and helping people grow. And after that journey together, we figured out, like, we just need to go out there and give people a gift, you know, and help spread awareness about folks. And that's kind of what we're trying to do, you know. And then oftentimes, you know, we find people that are struggling with different things, because businesses are hard. It's a hard thing to run, especially if it's a small business that you yourself are running. You know, it takes a team of people to really get out there and do things. And oftentimes we end up being able to help folks with just advice and, you know, give them kind of an idea of what to look for, because we've seen it. You know, we get to make friends and relationships, and, you know, like our friend over there, Armand, that we met through this adventure. You know, and now we've got a really good friend that hangs out with us. I think that's kind of what it's about to me, is making relationships and meeting people and sitting down with folks that we find interesting. You know, it's a very similar concept.
Yeah. This goes a long way back to, for me specifically, like professionally, because I kind of cut my teeth working for magazines and newspapers when I was younger. So I dropped out of college and for like graphic design or web development or whatever, and just started working in that industry. And I kind of saw, like, I learned how the press thing works. And then from there, I pivoted into like being a consultant. And, you know, at first we'd call it a freelancer, probably like a freelance designer.
Yeah.
And then finally, you know, cut my teeth enough to get to the point where, you know, I could consult someone how to start up their business or scale it or grow it or fix the issues or whatever the thing was. And it's ironic to pivot back into press as a way to exercise both, because, you know, giving something away is actually the most prime form of marketing today. You know, most people give away the secret ingredients in their content. And that's popularized by this book called The Go-Giver. So kind of our approach, because this whole thing we do is funded by, it's funded by the folks that need our help. And we end up finding them through the activity of, you know, making press for them. And it's all about creating relationships, you know. And through that, I think we get the most out of folks, because, you know, we're not trying to sell them something. We're trying to tell a story about them. And we become close to these people you know, a lot more quickly than I would when I was like starting a boutique marketing agency or something. And we still get to help them with all these things too. So our whole thing is give away as much as we can. And I think it's even surprised us that if we just give folks a platform, an opportunity, and our time and our expertise, that we develop relationships a lot quicker, a lot cleaner. And somehow just through giving away, we've been able to fund the whole ride. So, you know, folks like Armand and the friends we make who eventually sometimes become our clients. And that's kind of the whole idea, you know? So we're just trying to tell good stories now. And, you know, kind of like you sell cigars, I imagine. So, but why not tell a good story around that instead of trying to just, you know, talk about cigars all the time or whatnot. So I feel like we're kind of birds of a feather in that way. Like we're taking a very similar approach.
And you get the opportunity to find folks that really like cigars and really want that experience and need that experience, you know, and you can invite the people that you know will be a good fit for this podcast and, you know, let you be a little more intentional with your decisions instead of us just going, we need to make some money, guys. Like, you know, let's do something intentional that's going to help people. And my whole big thing when we got together and started this is what can we do to help people and to improve their quality of life? You know, and in a way, these articles are doing that. Like we put up an article for a friend of ours, and she had people walk through the door the next day just because we put up an article. It's you know, we take time to do it right, but it's not like crazy cumbersome.
Yeah,
you know, and it's a simple thing that we can do to give somebody to say, hey, we care about what you're doing. You know, you're a friend of ours. We want to help, and we're going to do something that's going to help you.
Sure.
Know? And then if we find out there's other ways that we can interface in the future to help each other grow, you know, great.
I mean, I love it. I think it's fantastic. Look, when you're starting a business, and I'm not talking about somebody who has a really great product and went to investors, right, and pitched it to them, and now they're sitting on $250,000 to help them get going. I'm just talking about the guy or the girl in your local community who has an idea and a passion for something and is going to scrape together $3,500 out of their, you know, out of their savings account and out of their cash cushion, out of their cushions from their couch, and maybe borrow $250 from their dad, and is going to just start this thing. And you don't have money to pay somebody to build you a website. You don't have money to pay a marketer. You don't have money to pay some, you know, Instagram or social media manager. Like when somebody comes along to you and says, hey, I just want to help you and it's not going to cost you anything except for a little bit of your time, what do you say? I mean, that is gold. And that is solid gold. And it's appreciated. And yeah, if you, and this, I don't think this is it's not the aim. There's not an ulterior motive, but it's just the reality that whenever you help somebody for nothing, that's ingratiating.
Yeah.
And it pulls them in. And Sunday Afternoon Smokes, I mean, I love my podcast and I have a great time with it. I don't have any agendas. I don't have axes to grind. I don't have gotcha questions. I just thought it'd be fun to sit down with local business owners, entrepreneurs, business professionals, smoke a cigar, talk a little bit about cigars, and then highlight what they're doing, give them a little bit of exposure to the Upstate. And by the way, God bless the first 35 guests on this show when I had zero traction.
Yeah.
Right. They're coming on for nothing. And I'm finally starting to get some traction. And that's great. But all I wanted to do was just meet cool people and highlight what they're doing. And it doesn't cost them anything except for a few hours of their time, and they get a free cigar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
I know that we were surprised that this has come as far as it has, and that, I mean, I don't know that we thought it would turn into a whole-fledged press company. I just kind of had an idea, and funnily enough, our partner Eddie had a similar idea and ran a similar style thing in Hawaii for years. And when he came around, we kind of teamed up, and he was like, well, here's the missing pieces of this. Here's how you do it. And, you know, it turned into a whole thing. And then we started putting the articles out for folks, and they just loved them. And it was cool to see people to respond that way and be excited about it. And, you know, to be gracious for the interview. It's cool. You know, it feels good to do something that makes somebody else happy. I'm a big people pleaser, and I have been my whole life. So I just like making other people happy. And that's a way I can do that without any of these ulterior motives, or, you know, just a way to connect with folks. And it's just cool meeting people. I'm a social guy. You know, I spent years traveling, playing music, and I love just talking to folks and hearing stories and connecting with different people that you may not otherwise, you know. And it's cool to take that focus to the small businesses in the area, you know. And we're starting to expand even where we've been covering some shows at the local venue Radio Room, and there's some friends of mine. I've been playing their place for years, and you know, I've seen them grow from a really small venue with no windows and a graveyard right behind it to now they're like a nice, reputable, mid-sized venue in the area. It's selling out shows and booking incredible bands that end up taking off. And we're starting to highlight some sports things, and we've been covering some of the Clemson hockey games, and it's just fun to see it grow. And there's so many different things that we probably would like to cover. And, you know, who knows what it'll end up and what time we'll end up having to take these different directions. But I'm so pleasantly surprised with the way that it's gone, and that people are into it, and that the articles actually help folks out and they make a difference, you know?
Well, I think you said something that's super important and that matters beyond it's not even really about the business. It's not necessarily about Upstate Community Press or Sunday Afternoon Smokes or whatever it is you're doing. It's about the people. You said, I like making people happy.
Yeah.
Fact is that we live in a world that's hard. The world is hard. It is a dog eat dog, eat your lunch. There is so much that happens in life that is unexpected and many times awful, and people are grinding through. They're carrying burdens and heartbreaks and sadness that we don't know about. And if I can just come alongside you and do something kind for you that makes you happy, it gives you a little bit of reprieve. Like, that is, I don't even know what to say, what that is. I mean, it's great. It's a blessing. It helps. I mean, you never know what kind deed or word you did or said to somebody that is just going to help them take the next step before they were going to plunge into despair.
Yeah.
Right. And despair can look like, you know, not being able to pay the bills for your small business. It can be a pretty tangible despair, you know, and these kind of people are typically inundated with people trying to sell them something all the time. Oftentimes they're like, what's the catch? you know, free press isn't free,
right,
so to speak. But you know, it is. I think this is the new handshake with the way small business or anybody interacts with each other. You know, give something first. You know, it's almost, I feel like it's culturally relevant. Like, if we come sit down, you know, you've done it. You've offered us something here. Cigars, a good conversation, and media. It's a service. You're doing work. So, I mean, that's just already, like, I'm already gravitated towards working with you. Once, if I need something to do with cigars, I'm going to call you because you've already given me something. And I think it's so simple that it gets lost on people sometimes. And that book, The Go-Giver, is, you know, I think YouTube as a platform survives off of this. People find a way to educate folks on YouTube, and it turns into revenue.
Sure.
And they had to give first. Like, they had to educate folks first before, you know, the community came and the subscribers and all the things. If you think about your marketing that way, that you just need to give, you'll do better. You'll make better relationships, I think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Just listening to you talk, I'm encouraged because there's good people out there that want to just help. But everything you said, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, are you guys a press company? Are you a consulting firm? Are you a media company? Are you all of the above? Are you something else? Like, what bucket do you put yourself in?
We're a one-stop shop for anything anybody needs, really. And it's because of the fact of the relationships that we've got, right? So if we see somebody that has a specific issue, like there's a band that needs to record an album. Well, one of our partners just happens to be a recording studio, and we can make that relationship happen and bring them in there and show them the space. And if they need some media, we've got access to media folks and camera gear. And if they need a website or marketing help, we've got access to that too. And then for me and Jerry's experience from the past several years of seeing a company from startup to sold or to scaled, we've kind of seen the whole story, and we know what all those pieces look like and how to facilitate them in a way that works and can help find people those right relationships to make sure that it's done correctly for whatever it is they're doing,
Yeah. And most of the time, and the articles themselves are kind of a qualifier for more video centric stuff. So, we do a podcast with Blanket for It, which is the studio we partner with. And so there's like kind of layers to it, but if you look at a normal corporation or LLC, whatever, if you look at verticals within a company, you usually have these departments that are kind of siloed. And if you have a sales department in your company, well, great. It takes a lot of people, a lot of work, a lot of time to put a sales department together and do it right. And so I wish I could say that we, came up with that idea, but really what happened was our sales department became a press company. And and I have to give credit to Eddie King because he's kind of done this before, where he just gave, and he was doing, journalism for the MMA in Hawaii in the heyday of that, BJ Penn, like when that was really popular and people were wearing Affliction t-shirts and such. and I think what I like to see, what's kind of been surprising here is that, we went to create a sales department and we ended up with a press company, and that's way more permanent than a sales department could ever be. In fact, it acts like its own thing. And now it's not a sales department, it's just a press company. And we've talked to so many people and we've made so many connections that if you come in and sit on the interview, you walk out with the article with all the things, or we help you out and we connect you with someone that can help you with a specific issue, or connect you with someone who can do media, or someone that can facilitate, any number of things that most people need. Or you just get a good interview and possibly come on our podcast and some content for your social media, whatever the case might be.
And I think at the end of the day, too, it's just our way of like continuing that relationship that we get to start with the interview. Like now we see what you're up to and like, hey, I know all these people that could probably be beneficial for your business and you would be beneficial for theirs. Let's all get together and hang out, and creating like an ecosystem in this local area where businesses are supporting other businesses and we can rely on each other, and have a good camaraderie here in the Upstate for all these cats that are out there doing this thing,
Yeah.
Because it's tough.
Yeah, it most certainly is tough. And this might be a silly question or sound obvious, but why should small businesses tell their story to begin with?
I love that. Telling a story is the core to awareness, right? Like, for instance, like putting up a yard sale sign is not a story, really. But folks come by, and typically when they buy something from the yard sale, there's a story attached to the item. And I think that and there's a lot of influencer marketing and all these, you can go on social media and get inundated with how to scale your business and all these things. I think I came up in the era where that was budding, and I kind of learned how to do marketing, stumbling through some of those things. But if people were to kind of simplify the way they approach marketing and brand awareness and user experience and all these things to just telling a good story, they'd already be steps ahead.
Yeah.
And that's easy for us, because we have the background we do. So making a press, doing press, all the technicalities that come along with it are relatively ingrained in what we do. So for us to we're able to just focus on the story part. And I think when it comes to branding professionally, you get caught up with all the kind of checklist of items that you've heard. You got to have a logo. You got to have a mission statement, whatever. And if you're not focused at its core, what's the story I'm telling? And jumping off from the story you're trying to tell to develop those assets or items that you end up marketing with, then you're kind of cart before the horse. And it sounds simple, but in practice, when you see it, simplicity is actually ends up pretty complicated because it has a natural path it follows, and it kind of unfolds the way that it would organically because you started with the story and not with what's the picture after it's unfolded. Everyone has the goal in mind when they need to actually have the source in mind, and let the goal or the path to the goal kind of find itself through something as simple as telling a story. Everybody knows what a good story is, and most people have heard a good story. Marketing is sort of an extension of this old thing that people used to just tell stories. If you don't keep the story in your mind and you're focused on the things that come from it, the logo and the video, the commercial, the ad spend, the media buying, all the other stuff, if you don't have that at the core, everybody on your team knows the story. You're not as effective. You end up diluting your message because it didn't come from that place.
Yeah, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm over here trying to listen and think at the same time. And you said that you think most people know what a good story is, and I'm sitting here musing. Do people know what a good story is? Like, they hear the story, and then you can tell, okay, this was a good story, this was not a good story, or am I thinking mechanically, like, if I was going to author a good story,
perfect,
I need to know, what am I working with, character development, what's the end goal, what's the journey look like from when I left home to where I want to get, what did I have to overcome, what monster did I have to kill, what princess did I have to rescue, like. So if I'm a small company, and obviously those are all metaphorical things when it comes to, if your business is the white knight doing his thing, like, I would not craft a story like that for myself. I just feel like with the evolution of Sunday Afternoon Smokes, I just started something, and as I've gone along, it has coalesced and it's become more clear.
Yeah.
Along the way.
Right, exactly.
Am I even making any sense?
I think you're bringing up my favorite point about this, actually. And I always say to that, you have to be a chef to make good food, but you don't have to be a chef to know the food tastes good. So when people hear a good story, they're just enraptured. They're sucked in. They don't necessarily know why. A lot of people have built systems to tell a good story, and I'm a big fan of these, like the hero's journey. There's a lot of psychological frameworks you can utilize to make your story convincing.
Mm-hmm.
But I like to think about it as making the story easy to consume, that I'm not wasting time, that I'm making the story so easy to consume that it's more purely the story and less of the template you're using, right? But I think you're making a good point in that if you're going to be a chef, you have to know how to cook, but everybody can enjoy food. So when I say everybody knows what a good story is, I mean, they know it when they hear it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but just like the chef, they can't necessarily always explain why. And I
It just works because it works.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if you have both ingredients and you're not worried about, because there's lots of templates you can use, you can find those online, they work. But if your story doesn't stay intact, if the core purpose of that story doesn't stay intact while you're using those the forms of communication and those kind of psychological approaches to telling those stories, you kind of lose it. And so what I mean is there's always like a guiding principle to a story, the moral, if you will.
Yeah.
And if you think about a story, like it always ends with the moral, and you're like, I get that. Yeah, that's the moral. But I think actually the best stories, the moral is hidden. It's like something that your subconscious mind finds and not you. I think a story gives people their own ideas. And I think the art of telling a good story is when you've given someone an idea without saying it on its face.
You've dropped in breadcrumbs.
Yeah. And those breadcrumbs led them to that
Yeah.
realization or the moral or whatever you want to call it. And I just think that good marketing is exactly the same thing.
Well, that's just, I mean, I'm going to take it there because it's who I am. If you read the Gospels,
Yeah.
the parables of Christ, he teaches them all these parables and he drops the clues. And of course, you know, the reader today, we have the privilege of hindsight and we have the exposition of the apostles. And a lot of the times Jesus would give the explanation to the disciples, but not to the crowd. And so he is giving them all the details. He's dropping all the breadcrumbs. He's leading them right to the edge of the water, wanting them to drink. But he makes it so that they have to figure it out for themselves.
Yes.
We talk about this a lot.
This is crazy. You're tracking exactly the way I do this.
Well, and then I had, you've got, I had an old Bible college professor, and I'll never forget this statement. So when it comes to marketing, and listen, I'm not a marketer. I just do what I do, and I try and be real and authentic and personable and all that stuff. But if you're pitching something, you know that old saying is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. One of my professors always said this: you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But you can put salt in his oats.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can make him thirsty. You can dry him out so much that when he gets to the water, he doesn't have any choice but to drink. And that is, I guess I don't know how we got off on marketing, but it's all storytelling, and storytelling is marketing to an extent. But I want to make whatever it is I'm offering, whether it's a product or a service. Let me back that up. Because I don't care so much about my product or my service. I've learned this in business. I am the product.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
People don't buy products as much as they buy people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We have an advertising friend that says this up and down.
Yeah.
People don't shake hands with a logo.
Yeah.
Right. And so I have to be the best version of myself that I can be, that whenever I've spent time with you, I've encouraged you, I've loved you, I've given you XYZ, I've whatever, not with an ulterior motive. I just want to be helpful. But when it comes time for you to make a decision and there's 4 other guys that do the same thing as I do, it's not even a question of which well you're going to drink from.
Yeah.
I've salted it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're a little bit off, but
no,
you've
got. I think you've got the thing. I think you've got the thing, and I love what you said about. It's a joke, but it's not. That I say this a lot. That Jesus was a really good marketer, and kind of what you're saying, and when you say it that way, you're like, ooh, like don't call Jesus a marketer. That's bad. But
well, he is the master storyteller because of who he is.
Because
he's the Son of God.
It's all spreading a message, and he had a message to spread, and he spread it so well that it's still around, you know.
And my favorite part is kind of touching on what you said, is the apostles are like, hey man, why do you always talk in parables? Like, you just tell stories when a crowd is near. That's what we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And he says, so they can look, but not see, listen, but not understand. I might have gotten that wrong, but it's something.
No,
really close.
he's quoting the prophet Isaiah. Yeah.
Yeah. And what he's saying to me is you speak to the subconscious mind. And what that means is the subconscious mind makes all the decisions. And if you tell the subconscious mind something, hey, think this, it's like, no. But if you put salt in its oats, it can draw a conclusion, the conclusion you wanted it to draw.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it gives agency to the listener. It makes them feel as if they came up with the thought themselves. And I think that's what Jesus meant. He was like, I can't just tell these people what to think. I have to inspire them to think that way, to come upon it naturally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think good marketing does the same thing.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned something earlier. You said that, businesses telling their story and branding, I mean, that's been around forever.
Too long, maybe.
Maybe, I don't know. I don't.
Well, there's like common practices that people just parrot.
Sure.
Because this is what you do, right?
Well, it's been around so long, and it's just something that businesses have done. But what's different right now that makes it essential to tell your story instead of just optional?
I think that there's a lot of businesses out there, and there's a lot of over communication going on, and it's competitive. And I think one thing about what we do is when you tell your own story, right? You should do that. When somebody else tells you someone else's story, there's like another sense of authority there, right?
Yeah.
Like if I go and I tell someone about your podcast, they don't know that it's jaded. They know this is my opinion of you.
Right.
And if it's a good opinion, they're probably going to call you, And it's kind of another sense of like empowerment. Like these people are covering what we're doing because they see something valuable in what we have to offer. So you should too. I think press coverage in general brings that kind of piece of authority that a lot of times, sometimes just self-promotion can miss,
I mean, you're getting into the best kind of marketing that money cannot buy, which is word of mouth.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
It's still the best.
So, yeah, if you go out and you tell whomever about you should try and get on Sunday afternoon smokes, you're right. That is not me. Like, it's always cheap when you validate your own product.
Right.
But if you've got other people out there who sit down with you or purchase your service or purchase your product, and it's so great that they're out there telling everybody about it, that you can't beat that with a stick. I mean, I don't think you really can. So where can people find Upstate Community Press? On what's the website?
The website is upstate.press, simply put. And you can find us on Instagram at Upstate Up Press as well. And on social media as Upstate Community Press. Facebook rather, not social media. Right now we're just active on those two.
Yeah.
We'll probably move into TikTok. We're a new thing, so
yeah, you'll
see we have 24 posts or so, something right now. But man, we're very grateful at how welcomed we've been by especially some of the people that we did interviews with early when we were just getting it kicked up, and they're just now kind of seeing the fruits of that. So yeah, and reach out to us. The interviews are free. There's no pressure.
People can reach out and say, "Hey, can I be featured?"
Absolutely. Of
course. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
There's a form on our website. Just go to the contact page. You'll find it there. If you want to go to the Get Featured page, you'll find sort of how it works.
Sure.
And we're really excited to make this as a qualifier for the podcast as well. And we've already shot some of the podcast episodes. We'd love to have you on.
I would love to go on.
Clearly, I think.
I'm usually the host, so to sit in the other chair would be super fun.
Yeah. And some people kind of have a hard time with it too. Like,
oh, I love it.
Yeah. I can tell you'd be a good guest.
Well, what do they have a hard time with?
I think, just the normal, I don't
think
public
it's easy
speaking.
for a lot of folks being under the lights and the camera and the microphones. And I remember getting red light fever when I first started recording in studios. And I'm just now kind of getting more comfortable with the podcast thing. It intimidates me sometimes.
Hmm.
And I've been on camera for, I think, since I was young,
Yeah. Well, this is, to break it down, like, this is the whole synergy of businesses helping business.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Well, I think I met Josiah at Brits Brothers gym at Jake Henderson's Strengthtoberfest, and then he hits me up to do a feature for the cigar box in Upstate Community Press, and we're talking the interview, and I'm like, hey man, you should come on my podcast and we can talk about it. And so Josiah comes on, and then he's like, well, you should have Duncan and Jerry on. And so I'm like, absolutely, let's get Duncan and Jerry on, and here we are. But there's other people that have either been featured or going to be featured in Upstate Community Press that I've reached out to.
Awesome.
That are going to come on for an episode of Sunday Afternoon Smokes. And but that's the exact synergy we're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's all collectively work together.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out Ollie from Brits Brothers, who we're working with closely now. Folks like him.
Yeah.
We love guys like Ollie.
And he's such a great, just good person. He's so genuine, and he's so intelligent with his craft and with just the human body and strength. And it's amazing. We were talking to him. He came over to the recording studio just to hang out, and he looked at me and said, I can point out where you're weak. Like, not to be rude, but I can show you. And I was like, okay. And all the guys were around, and he pointed to all the areas of my body where I was weak, and he was 100% right.
Yeah.
He nailed it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to come work out with you. That's the move.
I just love somebody who's really good at something.
Yeah.
I think for me, like in my career, being a freelancer, being a business consultant, starting startups, I've been pretty lucky to meet some people, really talented people. Duncan's one of them. And that's my favorite thing in life. That's why I love what I do, I think. Yeah, and it circles all the way back to the cigar thing, and somebody who can really help you appreciate something like that. I love people like that.
Yeah.
Good deal. Yeah, if he were to look at me and say, I can point out where you're weak, I'd probably say probably the area between my head and the floor is where I'm weak.
That's pretty much what he told me. Yeah.
the whole thing. The whole thing is weak. I'm a little bit interested in, like, your meeting, because you mentioned it early on in the podcast where you talked about you went to this club, you saw him play, and you're like, I want to be friends with this guy. And I don't want to gloss over the whole, we met, we became friends, let's start a business together, because that's it in a nice 5-second statement. But there is, I'm sure that you've heard a bazillion stories about friends who went into business together and crash and burn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So how long were you two friends before y'all decided to get in business together?
I mean, it happened pretty early on, but we've been buddies for over 7 years now, I think. Well over.
Probably close to 8.
Yeah.
Maybe even like close to 9. I moved back to Greenville in 17, the end of 16, the beginning of 17. So I met you shortly after. Ironically, I'd met who is now my mentor, who was then a client of mine. And I kind of met my client and Duncan at the same time, and then went on this crazy adventure scaling this company with my now mentor, Mark. And we, I got to see the Cinderella story, like from startup investment rounds, corporate investment rounds, Series A, bridge rounds, Series B, fundraising with like top 10 utilities in the country. And I was really fortunate to have that. And I kind of had that experience when I met Duncan, and then eventually folded Duncan in as a contractor to there. And us knowing each other while that was happening was kind of the catalyst of like, we can jump off and we can do our own thing. So that's kind of what we've done. Yeah.
What's, if anything, and some people just work really well together.
Mm-hmm.
But what's hard about it?
I don't think I've had a single hard thing as far as like the personal relationships.
No, those parts.
We just get along so well. And Eddie too, is a huge part of what we do. And he's really more forward facing than me and Jerry. And he's kind of like the heart of the press thing. But when we're in a room together, I mean, we can respect each other and respect each other's opinions and, you know, be willing and be open to hear each other out. And if somebody has a problem with an idea, we just bring it up and we talk it out. And I don't think we've ever gotten into any disagreements or fights or.
Yeah, you have to have some resilience. You know, you can't take things personally. I think that's like the very first high level professionalism milestone you need to reach is turn off your emotional reaction to things. Enjoy the sound of the band more than your own instrument. And I think that we all kind of have a way of doing that. We don't really butt heads. I think we butt ideas. Like ideas will clash sometimes. And we just always keep it in mind that, you know, at the end of the day, we're
serving a bigger goal.
Yeah,
bigger
and
purpose.
Nobody's perfect. So we all help each other make mistakes gracefully.
Yeah.
And we always say and my mentor Mark taught me this, is that we judge our successes by the quality of our problems and not by the quality of our achievements. And the better problems we have, the better we're doing. So if we have such a good problem that, you know, we're so successful that we all have a full-time job here, then the problem of having to navigate confliction is a good one to have.
Sure.
You know, I was consulting for artists and musicians, and I still do a lot of that type of work with the studio now, obviously. But when I was talking to folks about how to be in a band together, you know, it's about stripping away the personal ego as a drummer or guitar player or lead vocalist and serving the greater sound you're creating as a group and a collective, and bringing your own personal volition outside of that and standing there to make the rest of your band look good and shine and serve that sound that you guys are collectively creating. And I think that, I mean, Eddie and Jerry both are musically inclined. Jerry's a great drummer, you know. I think we all kind of understand that in a business sense too. Like we're serving a better purpose here of like making people's lives better and making people happy. And we all know at the end of the day that that's what makes us happy, you know. And we can remove ourselves from those equations and look at things from an outside perspective to try to come up with the best solution for problems. And we all want it to work out, and we all just have a blast being together and hanging out. And I mean, it's a dream to get to show up every morning to the office and be with all my buddies. You know?
Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like being in tune. Really, you're all serving the same purpose. You're on the same mission. And obviously there's more than one way to get there, but it's just, if we're going to keep it musically metaphorical, it's kind of like low C, middle C, high C.
Yeah.
They're all C, but when you play them all at the same time, you get that nice harmonious sound. They're all working in unison.
Yeah.
producing the same moment, the same clarity, the same drive, and everybody's working together. Yeah, and sometimes it's not about knowing what to play when. A lot of times about knowing when not to play.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
When to back off.
Yeah.
Give somebody the role. Give somebody lead. Yeah. And we're good at that. We're good at doing that.
Another favorite saying of mine, I have so many of them, is that there is no music in a rest, but there is the making of music in it.
Yeah. I grew up playing a lot of blues. I spent a lot of time in Clarksville, Mississippi, learning from a lot of the old hill country cats, and so most of which are now dead, unfortunately. But a lot of the thing with blues is like leaving that space for someone to contemplate what just happened. You know, you play a couple of notes, like a lot of lead blues players will just go crazy, and that's cool too. But, you know, B.B. King was always big about like, just knock them off stage with one note. It's all about that one note and what you put behind that note. And then the spaces in between, so somebody has that second to reflect on what they just experienced. And if you just hit them with full on the whole time, it's kind of hard to take all that in, you know. And of course, with different styles of music, if you're playing thrash metal, you don't really have a choice. Just go after it. Why not? But when you're doing something maybe a little more, you know, delicate, like blues or jazz or these things, or scaling a business or starting a business, or even just within friendships, you know, it's about the give and take and knowing when to leave the space for the other person to shine, or for the other people to reflect on what it is you're saying, you know?
Yeah.
It's humility.
Yeah. It really is.
It, like you said, let's just get rid of the emotional part of it, check the egos, all that, and functioning together as a team. every business, when you launch a venture, things are unknown. You're sailing uncharted waters.
Yeah.
So there's early uncertainty. There's fear moments. Have you had those at Upstate Community Press?
I think going back to the grill. So when we started this,
This is my favorite story, by the way.
Oh, here comes a story. Let's see if you tell a good story.
We literally started this. Oh gosh, talking all that shit about story. When we started this, we were broke. We started with no money, with no funds. The company that we scaled to great heights, it's doing that, but people are trying to sell it for us right now. And that means that, might as well be monopoly money.
Mm-hmm.
So we started, I kind of thought we would get out of that and then start our own thing. But no, we just hit the ground running. We had to get clients right away. We had to figure it all out right away. And we were sitting, we'd go to the grocery store to like Food Lion and get like ears of corn and
chicken quarters
and put them on the grill.
Dude, that's so good. You can't, it's so good. Chicken quarters and grilled corn. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah. And, we worked for like 16 hours straight and we're like, well,
most days,
we made mistakes. We tried things that didn't work. And I think we kind of came to an agreement that no matter what, we were going to see this through. We were going to keep going, and not to get metaphysical, but believing that it can work. Believing that it can work and visualizing that it can work is huge for me. And knowing that he had the belief too, and we had that belief together, we kind of decided, non on chicken and corn on the cob, that we weren't going to quit. And I remember, we sat down and Duncan looks over at me and he's like, well, I think we've gotten to the point where most people would quit. And what I learned, it's like, look for that moment, because once you got there, you just need to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
I remember thinking, this is as bad as it can get. And I'm sitting here with my best buddy eating chicken off the grill. If that's as bad as it gets, we can do this.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Because, we put together the cheapest meal we could, but
we were eating
like you said, it sounds pretty good. So, you gotta, in some extent, you have to know that what you're doing is like good. It's honest, so that you can have that belief.
I remember interviewing a guy one time. I don't remember his last name. It's way back in the catalog file. Interview with Travis something from, what is it? He runs like a men's health clinic. Game Day Greenville. It's like a testosterone replacement therapy kind of a place.
Yeah.
And we were talking about changing people's lives, because he had done a lot of like drug abuse counseling in the past, and talking about changing people's trajectories and getting them away from this crowd of people and putting them with this crowd of people to change their life. And he said a lot of people just they didn't believe it would work. And he said, I would tell them, you don't have to believe it will work for it to work. You just have to do it. And I understand what you're saying. Like, if I want to start this company, you want to believe it will work. But if you look at the work you're doing, if you're putting in the work, but of course it's got to be the right kind of work. You know what I mean? Whether it's making the calls, showing up at people's places of business, sending the emails, shaking hands, just doing all of that stuff. Even if you're not super confident, but you are just consistent and you put in the work, and you're struggling with the whole belief, it'll work. You just have to keep doing it.
I think that's
and eventually you'll get there. I mean, it's like there's so many different ways I can illustrate it. Like it takes 9 months to, you want to plant a field of corn. Cool. Well, you're not going to harvest it 3 weeks from now. It's going to take a whole
Yeah.
season. It's going to be 9 months, or it's going to take you 9 months to have a baby.
Yeah.
It's going to take, whatever, the washing machine. It's got a cycle, and it has to finish the entire cycle before things are ready. So it's not, if you're looking for instant success, forget it.
Yeah. Well, there's like belief as an idea is the precursor to what belief really is, which is action
Yeah,
towards your goal.
correct.
And in an unwavering sort of way where even if things look kind of grim for a second, that you're not that's not the time to pump
Generally,
brakes. That's
things are going to look grim.
Yeah, and yes, exactly.
And I think that's belief is a choice.
Absolutely.
Happiness is a choice.
Yes, it is.
And why not navigate that 9 months of hell with the choice of being happy and believing it's going to work out rather than being worried? And when you navigate through those experiences that way, for me personally, because I've always been an anxious person that worries and overthinks about everything. And when we started this, it was really important to me to have a bigger reason for what we're doing so that I can believe in it, because I know at the end of the day, it's helping people. And that's what it is. So I believe in that wholeheartedly, and we've been able to do that.
Yeah.
And having that belief and knowing things are going to be fine, I feel like we've been able to walk through this experience a little bit different. And doors have opened because of how confident we feel about this and how insistent we are on just making people's lives better and helping folks, And having that mindset when you're approaching any project just makes it a little easier to navigate, I think.
Mm-hmm. How do you guys balance, because I understand what you're doing with Upstate Community Press, you're giving.
Yeah.
You're giving, and that's awesome, and you keep giving, but you're also making a lot of connections. You're making personal connections that helps Upstate Community Press and your other business. But when this person comes to you and says, "Hey, I do this and I need this," you're like, "Great, well, we're friends with this person who does what you need. Let me connect you." And there's a lot of that going on. And of course, I'm sure in your other enterprises, you wind up getting some clients out of these connections. So how do you view your responsibility toward your clients versus community?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, all of the clients started as community. So I don't think they lost that quality. I think it's, they're not either or. And so if it wasn't for the community, the clients wouldn't be. And, we get something when someone sits down and interviews with us, because now we have a big collection of, 50 maybe? 50 or more interview series with real business owners right here in Greenville or the Upstate. Some folks like in Hawaii or in Phoenix, but it's, they stay community when they become client, and they stay tapped into all the other folks we know when they become client. And I think oftentimes, a lot of times we do an interview or do some press with somebody, go cover an event, whatever the case might be. And then months and months later, whether it's them coming back or something comes back karmically, whatever you want to call it, it comes back. And it's really nice to be where we are now, because now we have the community and we have the clients and the machine's running, so to speak, so that we can interact with the community more meaningfully every time we do.
Yeah.
But the community's primary to the thing working, right? If we were just out, I think that's the truth. Like, we weren't out looking for clients. We were out looking for community.
Yeah.
And clients come. So I think the community is primary, and it's what our main mission is. It's what our goal is.
Yeah.
Like, if you approach us and you wanted a website or a nice video, a commercial even, some social media strategy help, a marketing campaign, we can do that stuff. But when you visit us as a brand, it's community first, always. That's what you get first. So I think it's the foundation of everything we do.
Yeah, that's really where the responsibility lies in my mind, because that's where we started, just helping folks out. And if they turn into clients, great. If they don't, fine. We still have a good family of people that we care about that are all trying to support each other,
I think that's a great look, that we are here to serve the community, and some of these people in the community become clients, but they're still part of the community, versus I'm just taking clients and only my clients are my community.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is like a boutique marketing agency thing that would usually happen, right? You would make your clients feel like rock stars, like they're in, VIP access, where we just try to make everybody feel that way. Like, and if you're on our site, or in our kind of media circle, it's not because you're hyper successful or, you have to be some kind of rock star. It's because, most of these people, they're just putting in the work every day, and they're making something cool happen.
Yeah.
And
we get to be intentional about the people we feature, and pick folks that we believe in, folks that we think have a thing, are really doing something and they believe in themselves, Like, I like to see when somebody really believes in what they're doing and has a purpose for it, a reason, that it's, more than just their job. This is their life, because like Upstate Community Press has become my life, it's what we do, and I love it. And I want to see other people that have that same experience and share that with other folks.
Yeah. I'm really interested in people, and I'm curious about their stories. And so I don't, if my sole intention was to grow a podcast, which we were talking about before we started recording, like, I don't scour Instagram and try and find, like, I will only talk to people who have 100,000 plus followers.
Right.
By the way, 100,000 plus followers on Instagram doesn't translate cleanly to podcast listeners.
yeah,
it just doesn't.
Of course.
But I'm not the guy that invites people on the show based on how popular you are and what your following is like. I mean, I've had, well, geez, I think Upstate Community Press right now probably has about 50 followers or so last time I checked.
Yeah, on Instagram.
Yeah, that's what I mean, on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's where I do a lot of surfing for
for sure.
people that I'd be interested to sit down and talk to.
Yeah.
But, I think the person with the most following I've had so far on Instagram is Rise Bakery, and they have, I think, like 8,000 followers maybe. But then I had a young lady on months ago, and she had like 250. I mean, I don't really care how big your audience is. I'm just interested in people, and if you're doing something cool, I want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And I'll just let the growth happen organically in however that looks. Now, I will say, to date, I did months and months ago invite Dabo Sweeney onto my podcast.
Cool.
He politely declined. and when Sunday Afternoon Smokes is a massive media thing, Dabo, you're just going to be sad that you didn't get in on the ground level, bro.
That's it, man.
That's
And
stolen
the followership doesn't matter.
No.
Like, that's social media in a way is kind of a made up thing, and we're all real people sitting here talking about real stuff that's happening.
Sure.
You go onto social media, if they put a camera up, guys, they recorded it. We're sitting here
I don't
without
even think about it. Do you? I don't even. I really don't. Like, when we're looking at, we put the form up one day and posted on Facebook, and we got like 50 submissions.
Yeah.
And we're still processing some of these, but I don't really think about that piece. In fact, I think it'd be way more interesting to find somebody kind of at the ground and level and have them back and watch their progression.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Return.
We got the guy that did Monkey Feet. Forgive me for forgetting his name, Evan. And he has this really cool story where he made Monkey Feet, which is like this device that lets you attach barbells to your feet. Pretty simple. But then he ended up like on Joe Rogan or something of the like. And that was really cool to have him, in our chair and talk to him about it. But when he came through the interview process, we were like, oh, finally, we've been looking for somebody who,
Sure.
We need clout or something like.
Right.
It's never a thing, It helps us to tell the little guy's story. That's the story no one's telling. We've already heard. We want the fresh thing. We want the new stuff.
Right.
So it makes sense for me to be excited about, ooh, this guy's not like successful yet, but it's a really cool idea. Check this out.
Yeah.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Well, let me stop right here just for a second and let you know that midweek I also do a short solo reflection podcast called Between Sundays. No guests, no outlines, just a few thoughts. If you want something a little quicker in the middle of the week, you can find Between Sundays on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and other places. Look, everybody talks about entrepreneurship online, but most small businesses are really just trying to survive, like month to month. So what do you think small businesses are getting wrong about marketing right now?
I think a lot of it is what we've talked about, give first, be open. There's a lot of there's a lot of this secret recipe thing that kind of happens, where it's like, oh, I have a good idea. I need to protect it.
Right.
No, you need to tell people about it. I think famously people will tell you it's who does the good idea, not who thinks it up. Thinking up an idea has little value. It's the action piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a huge piece. Like, give away the secret sauce. Show people how the sausage is made. If you're worried about them making the sausage themselves, trust me, they'll stop halfway through and call you for help.
Yeah.
And that's the whole, from 30,000 feet, I think that's the main thing. But on a practical sense, content is king.
Yeah.
Video, know how social media works, because that's where eyes are,
I have no
moving with
idea how it
intention,
works.
Being intentional about what you're doing. And I think it'd be data driven, having a reason behind your approach, whatever it is. If it's content, have a reason for what you're putting out and have it be multifaceted, multi-purpose, and using what you collect through your interactions with your customers or clients or whoever it is to kind of help make your determinations on how you market this thing you have, instead of just saying, I think this will work, let's try this. And there's nothing wrong with trying a bunch of stuff, but it's pretty easy to get basic information on how people are finding you and where they're finding you. And you can use that to your advantage and to get your product in front of people that are suited for what it is you're offering,
Well, do you think, I don't know if traditional advertising versus advertising today, and by the way, me asking this question, I'm way out of my depth here. I have no idea. Would it be appropriate for me to ask you, because I'm making an assumption, but why doesn't traditional marketing or traditional advertising work the way it used to?
I think it's because of this data issue. A lot of people just go right into spending on advertisement, and they're just kind of trying these things out. And they maybe don't have enough of this data collected to make a good informed decision on how to spend that ad spend appropriately to get their proper value out of it,
Yeah.
If you just kind of start throwing money on ads and hitting and hoping, it'll work, you'll get some customers, but you're also kind of diluting what you're doing because you don't have this targeted approach and you're not using data and intention to make those decisions, if I were to be selling let's say a household cleaning product, right? I don't have any idea how these people are finding it. I'm just going to throw out videos and put some ad spend into it and you'll get some clients. But if you take a second to kind of collect, how are these people looking for these products? What are they searching when they have their credit card in their hand and they're on Google to find that, right? And then what types of content are they inundated with? What other companies are doing this that are performing well? And let's look at their content strategy and their advertisement and get an idea for how to make a good educated decision on moving forward. And a lot of the times folks will get addicted to spending that ad spend because that's their source of revenue. Instead of being able to be found organically from what they have to offer because someone just looked for them, and it's hard to get that to happen sometimes. There's a lot of competitive markets out there and a lot of people starting businesses. but they'll get addicted to that ad spend. And then if you cut that ad spend off, you're in trouble, you know?
Yeah.
And we kind of take an approach of, let's get you findable first,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And when those people find you, we know how they found you and what they were looking for. And then we kind of know how to market this.
I see building brand awareness like building a pyramid. And the farther up the pyramid you go, the more costly it is to build, right? So you have to start with the foundation. And that first layer of the pyramid is the biggest and broadest. And it needs to be to stack up all the subsequent pieces. And that bottom of the pyramid is free. It's paperwork and action. It's the things you have to do, the things you have to fill out. You have to have a website. You have to have, well, a website's not free necessarily, but what I mean is if you haven't explored every avenue to push awareness where it's free, you're not ready to push awareness where you need to spend. And learning the lessons, you know, and when he says data like Google Analytics or, you know, your social media analytics
Right.
data, you can get it done through traditional ad spend, but without knowing what works without the spend, you know, like, yeah, if you're a sushi chef, learn how to cut sushi with the butter knife before you use the expensive one. If you play guitar, play a cheap one first and get the calluses on your fingers. And back to your point earlier, like grassroots still works. Start there. It's free to shake a hand. You know, people kind of start with the top of the pyramid. And it's like, that's great. That's the best part of the pyramid, right? But it's not going to generate the most stability
Right.
as you go.
Yeah. You mentioned a minute ago about organic growth, which is hard. But what, in your opinion, what makes something grow organically instead of artificially?
Well, I think, you know, the brand presence, obviously, having a good brand that's going to facilitate that feeling that you're looking for. If you're selling a luxury product, you know, when somebody sees your brand, it should reflect that. And that's a big piece of this, that how you present what you have and how you position it so that it has the value that you attach to it, you know, and it's clean to see, but also just making it searchable. Because when you're going to buy something, you got your credit card in your hand, you go to Google and you go and look for that thing, you know? So it's finding how are people looking for you and then using those terms to, you know, help your stuff show up when they're searching for this product that you offer, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then through having a strong brand and strong brand awareness and good content. And, you know, there's a large constellation of things that you kind of want to see happening to facilitate this organic growth. But you check out all those boxes and you fill out all your paperwork, you know, and you typically become searchable. And sure, there's a lot of competitiveness in some areas. Like there's a lot of landscapers out there, you know, and there's a lot of roofers and it can get really competitive. That's why I think I like people that are doing something more unique and niche and interesting and maybe not as highly competitive per se. The organic growth's a little more reasonable to attain then, I think.
Well, there's marketing and there's organic growth by doing all of those things you talked about. And then of course there's marketing tricks or starting at the top of the pyramid or whatever you want to do. But how do they know when they're being genuine versus I'm just doing marketing?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's you know, tell the truth. It's, you know, a value proposition is the truth well packaged. So okay, so there's always like this feel bad piece that's like, you know, how do I cut my pitch? What's my jib like? But really, if you can think about that as how do I make everyone's busy? I'm stopping them for them to consume a message or some content. How do I make that easy and enjoyable for them? And keeping the value proposition I have intact alongside. And people are being entertained today. So I think you see like brands like Dr. Squatch.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone thinks Dr. Squatch makes the best soap in the world, but the commercials are damn funny, you know? And so you kind of ask yourself, is Dr. Squatch selling soap, or are they selling content, you know? But that kind of, like, everyone's seen Dr. Squatch commercials, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I just, it's the same thing. Like, some of the older ones for sure, like Little Caesars pizza commercials are hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But nobody, like, they're not the best pizza.
It used to be all right in the 90s. Remember you could go in there and get pizza by the slice?
Yeah. Well, no, I
When
didn't
I
know
was a
that.
little kid, Little Caesars, I'm going on a tangent here, but Little Caesars in Seattle, when I was a kid, was like, Little Caesars was great. It's completely different now,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah, I think, too, if you look at the big players, they're playing a different game. Don't mimic them.
That's true.
Yeah, because behind every big brand, and you're like, oh, that was a great idea, or, oh, that looks really cool, I can see why it's popular. The reason it worked is because of, like, some hard-to-access distribution network.
Right.
Or hard-to-access manufacturing assembly line.
Yeah, and they're sitting on like millions
Right.
of dollars.
It's like, I've got this little gadget or gizmo that does this thing. It's a good idea, right? Yeah, but, you know, the point of the big guy is he knows how to manufacture and distribute it on the cheap.
That's good.
So if you try to emulate his strategy, you're not going to have those things in place.
Right.
So you kind of have to, you can't approach things like that. You know, any good national expansion goes region to region, city to city, town to town. It's a collection of niche things. It's not, you know, unless you have, you know, a $20 million investor round.
Yeah,
Sure,
sure.
maybe. Or you can tap into that distribution network or whatever it is that you're leveraging. If you don't have leverage, if you just have awareness and messaging, you know, start small, start local.
Yeah. Well, in the interest of this conversation and where we're at right now, you know, in what Upstate Community Press is, I mean, you were talking about national, then state to state, city to city, town to town. But for us, that might look more like just upstate versus the whole state of South Carolina.
All right.
You know what I mean? So considering the people we're talking about, is it better to be known by a lot of people or trusted by a smaller group?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I think those are two different value propositions. I think some brands do better with the masses and some brands do better with exclusivity. I think Rolex realizes not everybody can buy their watches. And sometimes if if Rolex were to say, not everybody can buy these, you're going to miss out on a huge demographic. Rolex doesn't care. It kind of wants that to be created. So, back to if you were lukewarm, I will spit you from my mouth. So be something extreme. If you want to sell, 100 things for $1, then do it that way. If you're going to sell one thing for 100, be on one end of the pole. Don't be in the middle.
Right.
I know that's kind of figurative, but that plays out in reality. There's a big difference between the way you market, say, a consumer product and the way you market like B2B client relationships. So a consumer product that has shipping and accessibility, people can just click and buy it. You want to appeal to the masses, and there's a demographic game, and there's a, what's the market share look like? But if you have a brand that's small and niche and serves a very particular thing, you can actually get that off the ground faster too.
Yeah, you just need a small slice of the market.
You just need a small slice of the market.
Yeah.
And rather than trying to look at the pie, like just go slice by slice. So
yeah.
I think it's easier to enter with a unique value proposition and one that targets a very specific demographic, whether that be geography or any other way to cut up a person and their interests. You're going to have a better time the more focused and niche you are. but the opportunity for exposure is just as good for the niche one as it is for the mass.
And
mass guys.
Since we're talking about markets, I mean, South Carolina is hot. There's just a gazillion people moving here over the last many years, and it continues to be that way. So what's special about the Upstate right now for small businesses?
Oh,
I think the Upstate's booming in general,
Yeah.
There's all these factories open up and companies come into town and
yeah.
people moving here at a great influx, and the downtown area is just growing like crazy and expanding. And why not bring a business here?
Yeah, I see two big hubs in South Carolina, Charleston and Greenville, in those respective areas. And so, like in Charleston, you have BMW, you have, what was it? Boeing built the carbon fiber airplanes there, having half of it shipped from Italy. So there's a lot of and I think Scotch Guard was born in South Carolina. There's a lot of old school textile stuff that happened here. I think Greenville's growing. I mean, if you've lived in Greenville for the last 10 years or you've seen it, like hotels don't build themselves. Really smart people decide where to build giant, luxurious hotels like the many that have come up in downtown Greenville in the last 10 years or so. So that is punctuated by a lower cost of living than most other places in the United States, at least ones that are kind of, have port cities and stuff like that. So I think Greenville's a great place to be right now if you're starting a business, for a lot of reasons. And between those two markets, there's a healthy thing going on in South Carolina in general.
Yeah, one of the things that I've thought in my own brain, and if you're listening and you're waffling on starting a business and should I do it and is the market right for it, one of the things I started thinking about was watching the other businesses that open here, like when Whataburger opened recently, when The Habit opened recently, and the other national chains are coming here. Like, those are massive multi-million-dollar corporations, and for a fact they've done all their studies. And so I'm thinking to myself, if they've done their studies and they're willing to open here, well, they've done current studies, they've put out their 5, 10, 20-year projections, and if they are pulling the trigger on it, it's probably a safe bet for me to start my little whatever.
Sure.
Because it's obvious they're expecting enough growth.
It's like the whole Walgreens, CVS, one of them decided, and they're doing all the research. Let's just open up across the street.
Lowe's, Home Depot. Yeah.
Sure.
All of that stuff. You're a creative. I mean, you are too.
Sure.
He says you're a great drummer.
Yeah.
We know you're. That's what he says.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
I'm all right.
I think I don't know if this is true or not, but do you find artists like yourself that they struggle with business? Like, because our artists there's like this creativity and this flow and this fluidity versus a lot of business. While it has some creativity, it's this. Right? It's spreadsheets, it's dollars, it's cents. It's like, so is that a real struggle or is that a common gap?
I think that there's probably a bit of both going on. I mean, I can really only speak for myself, but I know when I was in and out of bands, the thing that I wanted to do was play music, not sell me playing music, right? And it takes a lot to be in a band. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of money. Gear's expensive, man, And you've got to write all these songs and record them and go and set up for a show. I mean, when you go and play a show, you're there all day. I mean, there were load-ins that I've been at 9 a.m. and I don't leave the venue until, after 2 in the morning. And
wow.
You don't have time to do all of that. And there were some groups that I was with where I was doing a lot of the booking and a lot of the outreach and stuff. And I think the same with small businesses. Like, you can only wear so many hats, and you should wear the hat that you're good at and the one that you like. And if you can find a team of people to help you with the rest of it that are good at what they do, then go that route. But to try to do everything yourself as an artist is really, really difficult because it is a business now. You know, you have to put yourself out there. You have to make silly little videos and put them on the internet. You got to go out and shake hands and send emails to venues and get content together so that you can show the venue, here's what I'm worth, like book me, you know, and you have to grow your social media following and all the same things it takes for a business. It takes to be an artist that's, you know, attempting to make a living. And it's tough, man. I think it's one of the tougher jobs out there. Is as much of a dream job as it is for some folks, there's a lot of work that goes in and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that folks might not see. And I know that I struggled with organization and you know, being on top of things and sending out emails and, you know, going from being on the road and being band-minded and being a player, you know, into being an entrepreneur and working on starting businesses and helping other people with theirs. I've kind of bridged that gap for myself. And now I realize, like, oh, all the things I thought I was bad at, I really wasn't. I just wasn't doing them the right way, or I didn't have the systems I needed to be successful with those tasks, you know? And there's a lot of different ways you can do it, you know, just like with businesses. You can go out and just talk to every venue in town and knock their door and, hey, can you let me play, you know? Or you can go and cut an album and put the album out and try to do it that way and see if venues hit you up. Or, you know, there's no right or wrong way necessarily, but I think a lot of artists probably struggle with it because it's not their wheelhouse. You know, we're already spending our time creating the show that we want people to come see. And there's a lot of thought that goes into that. And it's a group of people, you know, you'd be in bands with 6, 7, sometimes more if you're like, you know, in a nice funk band, there's a bunch of horn players, who knows, but it's a collaborative effort, you know. And when I was in bands, we oftentimes had folks that were helping us with the social media or helping us book, or we would find representation or work with a label or, you know, work with management. And it just takes all those other pieces kind of coming together from independent parties and make this mechanism of, hey, this is a thing now, and it's an engine and it does things, you know. And I know a lot of folks that do it all themselves. A really good friend of mine, Wade Bowers, he's with a band in town called the Black River Rebels. The Black River Rebels. He's also with a group called The Accuser. He does a bunch. He does solo shows and he stays packed out. And it's because he's doing his thing. He's reaching out to people and trying to stay booked. And it is tough, man. It is tough. You got everybody else out there trying to get booked also. And one of the bigger issues in my mind is a lot of people just like to play. So they'll approach a venue and I'll do it just because I want to do it. Right. But if like you were a school bus driver and relying on that income and I came to the school and it's like, I love driving buses, just let me do it, you know? Well, like, you know, you're screwed now. And
right.
I think a lot of that's probably impacted a lot of small music scenes and the liquor liability insurance that we've dealt with here. We've lost a lot of mom and pops, man. A lot of them, a lot of places that I love dearly that I've performed at and that are important to the local area, you know, and now bands in this mid-size area where they're trying to get in front of a room with 300, 400, 500 people. Yeah, it's almost impossible. You know, we've got the Radio Room, and shout out to those guys. They're awesome. They do a great job. But between that, I mean, next you got the Peace Center, and they're not going to be booking a bunch of punk bands or metal bands or, you know. And after that, you got Bon Secours, and that's a big jump, you know. And it makes it tough to kind of climb that ladder and have a space you can fill with people. You're going to start out with 20 people in a room, and hopefully you can grow it. But if there's no room to fill the right amount of people, there's sort of an issue there, I think, you know.
Right. So what of all those lessons that you went through being a musician and traveling and shows and all of that, how is that now that you're taking that creativity over to the business side and helping people with branding and tell their stories, how has it shaped it?
I mean, I was a storyteller from day one, right? Writing songs and being an entertainer, and I've always loved people and traveling at a young age and getting to work in intimate business type relationships with other people in a band. You know, you learn to collaborate with folks and try to kind of take your own piece out of the equation and serve the sound that you're creating, like we talked about earlier. And I think that's probably the biggest thing that I learned from music, serving the sound collectively. And I take that same approach with what we do. And, you know, it helps my mindset. And I think just pushing through being in bands and getting shows booked and knowing like I can do whatever I want if I put my mind to it. And shout out to all of the mentors that I had that taught me all kinds of crazy life lessons and just experiences that are, you know, most people don't get to live through stuff like that. And I got lucky to do it really young and to hang out with folks that were older than me. I was always spending time with cats that were, you know, 10 plus years older than me. So I would spend my time asking them, like, how can I make sure that I'm going to be set up for success when I'm older? Because they'd already gone through what I was trying to go through. And I just got really lucky and met a lot of the right people that said the right things at the right time, and it stuck with me. And I find all sorts of sayings kind of coming back to me when I'm talking to folks about their business or trying to work on ours, and having a unique approach to it, I think, in a way, because I don't come from a traditional marketing background, helps kind of bring some fresh eyes to situations, and maybe we come up with ideas we might not have,
Yeah. I want to needle something you said there just a second ago that you said I got really lucky, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, well, but did you really? Like you put in the work.
Yeah.
You put in the grind. You were consistent at it. You kept showing up. You kept doing whatever was necessary to get the bookings and to play the show. And it is not, I don't know how much luck it is as much as it is just, it's the consistency. It's the sowing and then the reaping. And if you just do it long enough and often enough and you're faithful at it, well, eventually you'll meet the right people that help you get to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I say I got lucky, I mean, because some of the first people I met were those people. I rolled into Clarksdale, Mississippi when I was maybe around 14, and I met a lot of really influential blues cats, and I got them all together and recorded my first record. And one of the guys on that record's Deke Harp, and he's one of the best harmonica player in the world. He was James Cotton's protege. I don't know if you're familiar with old blues music, but James Cotton is pretty well respected. He's a big name, great harmonica player. And, Deke was one of my mentors with learning harmonica, and he came on that record. And Watermelon Slim is a good friend of mine that was a mentor also, and he cut on that record. And I was just 14 years old and didn't know any of these people, and they all came together, studio musicians, and helped me record my first record.
That's awesome.
It was crazy, and those people are all still good friends of mine. Deke ended up actually making a harmonica for Ozzy Osbourne before he passed away.
Wow.
I got to play it before he gave it to Ozzy. That was a super crazy experience.
Yeah, that's wild.
Just growing up around cats like that, that are really doing a thing. And Deke is a good example of this. He's worked his ass off for a long time, and still I don't think gets the notoriety that he deserves. And I mean, this dude's just incredible, and there'll never be another one of him. And he's been doing it for well over 20 years, I'm sure, at this point. And you can push as hard as you can for years in music, and sometimes still maybe not break out the way that you should, and it's all about the right person seeing you, maybe, or being at the right venue at the right time, right? There is an element of luck.
There is that.
But if you're not doing the work,
right,
the luck won't matter, because when you show up in that moment and you're unprepared because you're hungover or whatever, you're not taking your music seriously, and you're not practiced or rehearsed, and you don't know it, but there's an agent in the room listening to you, and you bomb your set, and the guy's like, and you didn't even know that guy was there because he didn't come up and talk to you.
Right.
And I think about plenty of shows that probably happened where we were just acting crazy, or we didn't have our set rehearsed, or they were just issues, because, I mean, we're all in a rock band, it comes with what it comes with.
Yeah.
We probably had a couple of shows where some folks were there, and we didn't get that opportunity because we weren't as prepared as we should have been.
Mm-hmm. All right, man, we're going to hit a couple more things before we wrap up. Something that you said to me pre-show is how the little guy becomes the big guy.
Yeah.
How the little guy becomes big. So what does that actually look like in your mind?
Well, I saw it happen. So I was fortunate enough to kind of see this happen. And, I saw 4 people scale a company, find investors, scale a company to a $30 million valuation, over 6 years. And I think it's overwhelming, the amount of things that you would have to plan for that whole experience. So, in a lot of the common thread of what we're talking about here is start.
Right.
And no one's going to know how you get there. No one's going to be able to tell you.
Right.
So I guess I'll just kind of I'll just kind of tell the story when I saw it, which is, I was fortunate enough to meet people who knew what they were doing. And people always say this, but you got to surround yourself in good talent, And so we were, these people, when I met them, they were working on regenerative braking. So this is where when you brake your vehicle, it captures energy and stores it from that. So you lose less kinetic energy. It turns it into electricity. And they were talking to they had a shop. They were talking to folks about it. And so they were starting with this idea. And they had a good engineer, a good sort of executive guy that knew about, marketing and business development and stuff, and a decent salesperson. And they had those elements, and that was it. And they had a small shop where they could work on this project. And they ended up burning the shop down. It caught on fire. It didn't work. And we had they had worked on getting the county of Greenville in to, check out what they had done. And the county of Greenville came in and saw the regenerative braking, and they were like, we don't really need this. But you know what we do need is something that does this. And what they asked for was they have these really big bucket trucks, like Class 8 chassis bucket trucks. They're huge. And these bucket trucks are idling their engine all the time to power the hydraulics for the bucket and all the stuff that's on the service body, lots of equipment. And they were like, we're kind of spending gas. Also, this is back when sustainability and the whole green movement was had a lot of steam. So they were like, we actually wanted to solve this problem. We're more interested in something like this. Is that something you do? And it wasn't, but
it is now.
It just so yeah. Well, it just so happened that the way they were engineering the regenerative braking was applicable to this particular solution. So they adapted the regenerative braking, and then the shop burned down, so they didn't have much of a choice. And a lot of people I think would give up when their shop burns down.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. It's okay. But what they did is flipped it into, let's try again, And that pilot with Greenville County turned into a relationship with Duke Energy, turned into a relationship with the OEMs and manufacturers of these big bucket trucks. And they kind of made a new technology. They've never been in this space, so they don't even know. You kind of think, well, you'd have to know everything about this industry to possibly, do it. But we approached it, and I met them right around this time the pilot was happening for the second iteration. And I think the number one thing I learned is approach your municipality. Learn how to talk to a board. Realize that, those things aren't on some pedestal that you can't reach. You can approach municipalities like Greenville County. You can approach big utilities like Duke Energy, and you can create relationships with these people. Don't underestimate that. And watching them do that, watching all that happen, it's really about, I hate to go back, believe in yourself. It's not exactly that simple, but do the homework, align with institutions, align with the bigger thing, but don't lose sight of your own, what your team is and what you're about. And if you're willing and brave enough to approach these bigger organizations that most people kind of shy away from, as the small guy, you can be big, and you can be big in a meeting. It doesn't matter, what the numbers are like. If you have the right idea, the right tenacity, the right approach, nothing's off the menu, in other words. But you got to be the little guy first. You got to wear those shoes first, Well,
you said something that I'm interested in. Do you think that is an advantage that small businesses have versus big corporations, is being able to turn quickly on a dime? I mean, my shop burns down. Okay, well, let's just change the focus.
Yeah, let's
because
change the
that's
focus.
like, but you,
Right.
like a massive corporation, you can't, you can't turn a massive cruise ship on a dime.
Right.
But when you're small, you can.
Yeah. And we were cutting into market spaces where massive corporations were there. And my mentor would always tell me, like, we're faster. Speed wins fights.
Mm.
And you can't act like you have the muscle to throw around. But if you lean into what you can be, is more agile.
Yeah.
And, I had meetings with like Tesla. I couldn't, couldn't believe it. A couple people in a room with a whiteboard
That's nuts.
in a burnt down shop ended up getting like, hey, Tesla wants to talk to you about, that was crazy.
Yeah, that's a wild phone call, man.
Yeah.
to learn that Tesla's calling.
Yeah. Yeah. And even like, I ended up making relationships with like the top 10 utilities in the world and having
Dude,
meetings
that's awesome,
with them.
man.
People aren't as, it's like old adages. You don't get anything unless you ask. Like, don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah.
And when you ask, like, come with the paperwork filled out.
Yeah, sure.
Do it properly. A little bit of research will help you do that.
Yeah.
But after that experience, I just feel like, oh, it would make sense to go back to the corporate folks and be like, well, let's get a good retainer here and, play that game again. But I love returning back to the little guy.
Yeah.
Because of that, because they're more agile. We can change on a dime. If you're in a huge, a bigger way, we're talking about years and years of planning and market research. Where do I open up? What a burger can do that. Start with what you got. Start small and lean into being able to be flexible.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask this clarifying question here because there's several principles you just talked about that I picked up on. But for somebody listening, what's one thing that a local business owner could change tomorrow that would actually move the needle for them?
I think we always use this analogy of it's like writing marketing a business is like writing a college paper. And I can write a really good college paper. Like, my idea is great. Everyone loves it. The way I word everything, the way I present everything, great. Everyone loves it. It would make a great dissertation. It would make a great paper. But the professor wants to see, did you reference everything correctly? Even if when you're taking the SATs, did you fill your name out? Like, there's points, right? So I think the small guys, what they're not doing is filling out the paperwork, right?
Super basic stuff.
It's basic stuff. And sometimes
that's starting at the top of the pyramid, man.
Yeah.
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 Exactly.
Yeah. Go research how to make your Google business complete. Doesn't have to be amazing. It has to be complete. And take the time to fill out your Google business to the T and make it complete. If you're struggling with like not having commercial space, find a way to rent a bit of an office so you can have that commercial address, filling out the paperwork is the biggest thing. It really is. It sounds simple, but if you're on the platforms, utilize them to their greatest extent.
Man, the devil's in the details.
Yeah.
So, all right, I got a couple of questions here, and I think we can wrap it up. But what have you learned about people through building this company?
Oh man, that's a good question. That's a tough one. I mean, a lot, I would say that folks are oftentimes in a position where they're chasing a dream of theirs, but they don't fully believe in that dream. And I notice that a lot now that I'm talking to business owners every day. And that always strikes me as surprising. And I think that, believing in what you're doing is super important. And that's something that stood out to me, just talking with different folks. Some people aren't as invested in their own company as you would think they would be. And that's fine. Some people have other things going on and they're just trying something on the side. And
Right.
you never know what their actual situation is. But I also think folks are a lot more apt to receive advice than other people would think. People are maybe not so willing to ask for help, but if you're able to give them advice that makes sense, oftentimes I think they take it, and people are probably looking for help and don't realize it sometimes. It's hard to ask someone, I need help, because you want to be the guy I got it all handled, I'm good, but you have to ask for help to get stuff done.
100%.
Folks are more willing to hear you out and take you seriously if you meet them on the level as a friend too, and you come with the right intention. So I think, the motivating factors of people it interests me a lot. What motivates them to do what they're doing. And yeah.
Nice. Have you seen a through line of small, successful businesses that they all seem to understand?
Sure. I think, unfortunately, I think a lot of people just don't put in the work. And I think I've seen successful people that put in the work. They eat last. And again, a simple anecdote, but I've had my struggles with that, like when I was a freelancer, it took me years to get to the place where I've gotten now with a team, because I understand that I have my own strengths and weaknesses, and the people I'm with, my teammates, complement my weaknesses, and we know when to give the ball to each other. So, yeah, it's like those two things, right? You got to be willing to say, okay, you take this one, and you really have to put in the work. You have to do the work, and it's not gonna come with it.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah. Diligence. It's hard. Like, I worked from home for a long time before it was like popular, or it was easy to do. And I remember getting like cabin fever, I'd have to go touch some grass or talk to somebody. So the people you surround yourself with and your work ethic, those are the common threads I see,
Nice.
A lot of times that's why you find a small business where there's like this one presence there that, man, if they weren't there, it wouldn't happen, because
Right.
they're the doer,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're the glue keeping that thing.
Yeah, and we're always coming back to like, believe in yourself. And yes, but follow with action.
Yeah.
It's pretty basic stuff. It just takes time.
No, that is what I've learned more than anything, is that it's just a matter of consistency and time, because most people aren't willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the bottom line. Like, the podcast world is kind of weird, but I have never spent a single dime on ads or anything to try and market, Sunday Afternoon Smokes. And, I was sharing with you some of the indexing and weird emails I'm starting to get from people that know Sunday Afternoon Smokes exists. And in my research, what I found is most independent podcasters, the first few episodes are fun, they're exciting, they like the novelty of it, but they quit before episode 10.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
That's like a statistic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're done like 10 episodes in, because then it turns into and everybody has a life. You have a schedule and consistency, and it gets hard, and my kids thing and my this and my that, and it just falls off. And then you have some other people that probably go to about like episode 25, but they're really not getting the traction and seeing the results that they wanted to see.
Right.
And it's not really worth my time anymore, but it's just showing up week to week or twice a week or how often your podcast is, and just consistently putting out content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And over time, it starts to grow.
I think marketing assets want the same thing. Like, if anything, we should realize from the idea that this kind of idea of logos and brands is a thing in the world, that it's a moniker for, oh, that's a business, is because those things create consistency. So not only just the way you act, your behaviors from a day, which people understand discipline, of course, but also like when you make a certain kind of video, make it the same way. Create consistency. That repetition is how people, it's how you stick in someone's head. It's through your consistency. Even if it's like you didn't do the greatest job on that video, but he's consistent, keeps putting them out.
Yeah.
And that's how you stick out to people, not because, you're a sparkly jewel.
Right.
Yeah.
Because there's a bazillion sparkly jewels everywhere. And that's, so in some of the research I've done, that's one of the things that I have learned and I've started doing. Like whenever I will drop an episode on Sundays and then I'll do the social media post, the graphic varies from episode to episode because I have different guests and different topics and different businesses. But every single time, Sunday Afternoon Smokes logo, bottom left-hand corner, probably transparency dropped down to 85% so it's not shouting over the rest of the thing. But it's right there. Every single time you see it, it's right there.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's what, people get inundated too with like content all the time. Like an easy way to like make your, if you imagine you're scrolling through like TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and if you come across the same creator, right, but their video is completely different every time you come across it, you're not going to know it's the same guy. But when that guy has the same 2 or 3 seconds in the beginning of his reel is the same exact words, the same angle, it's him, what you're doing, 3 or 4 or 5, 6, 7 of those times, that consistency created association. Consistency creates awareness and association. So same for you, if you didn't have the little logo in the corner, people would see the graphic. Like you said, it's different. 1, twice, 5 times, 10 times, they wouldn't have made the association. I think that works. Like that translates in day-to-day life. If a colleague or someone you work with has consistent behavior, to go to them for that behavior.
Right.
And they stick in your head too. It's like, I need somebody who's good at that. Oh, well, consistently, I've seen, whoever do that. So yeah, that's why we have branding to create consistency. There's lots of ways to do that. It could be words. It could be
any number of things.
It could be any number. You don't need a logo.
Just doing it the same way.
Do it the same way every time. And hey, it might not be the best way, but you're still going to benefit that it was the same way every time. And you might find a better way. Find the better way, upgrade, keep doing it the same way every time until you figure out what works.
Sweet.
Yeah, I'd say.
Well, look, guys, I think I've hit everything that I wanted to touch on, but before we shut it down, I wanted to make sure that there wasn't something we overlooked that you wanted to address.
I don't think so.
I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, I think we've covered it.
It's been great.
Anybody, we do like sort of the point of Upstate Press is to talk about businesses and small businesses, but we kind of spotlight anyone who's doing something cool. Like you don't have to be a business. You can be just somebody who's doing something different in your community, or you have a purpose or maybe an idea. We welcome anyone to reach out to us, and if you have a cool story, we'll tell it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's the website?
Upstate.press.
Upstate.press, and the socials?
Upstate.press on Instagram and Upstate Community Press on Facebook. Right?
That's right.
Sweet. Yeah. Man, I appreciate you guys coming out on a Tuesday evening and just chatting with me for a few hours. I've had a lot of fun.
I've had a blast. Yeah,
it's been a pleasure.
Let's do this.
Yeah. Sweet. Awesome.
And another friend.
Absolutely. I look forward to smoking more cigars with you and hopefully eventually sitting down in the podcast studio on the other side of the mic as a guest. And, maybe I'll find a place where you're playing and come check out your tunes.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do people still say tunes?
Works for me.
Hasn't died yet.
Yeah. You've been listening to Sunday Afternoon Smokes. I really appreciate it. And like I said at the beginning, if you'd like to support the show, the best way you can do that is just to give it a follow. But in the meantime, share Sunday Afternoon Smokes with your friends, share it with your family, share it on your socials, and share it with the world, because Sunday Afternoon Smokes is really sweet. We'll talk to you soon.